What's up, y'all? This is 10X Generation, and this is my road to $1 billion. So, quite a few things have been going on, but the first thing I want to talk about is the newest app that I'm working on. So, I'm not going to tell you the name right now, but just know that I am working on a new mobile application with a partner, which is something that I've never done before. All my projects, all my businesses, all my endeavors have always been a solo kind of thing. I've always done it by myself. I'll do the programming, the marketing, the everything by myself. And a couple months ago, I just got to the point of realizing that doing it all by yourself is not the best way to do it, because just for various reasons. I talk about this in the previous video. And so far, this collaboration has been working very well. He has a bunch of ideas. The app we are creating is something that is like something that is for him. He would be the target audience, and so he has a lot of ideas of how it should look, how it should feel, how it should be. Interesting features that I would have never thought of, because when I make apps, you know, they're not always. I'm not usually the target audience, right? Right. So, but we're gearing up to get to the end, and we're starting to reach a couple of problems. Um, well, a couple of problems. Um, the main one of the problems is that the way I release apps is different than how he believes that apps should be released. I believe that apps should be released, and projects that are like technically based, they should be released slowly. So instead of like you working on it to make this beautiful, perfect app, and then you drop it and then let the whole world see, I never do that. What I always do is I get the basic functions down, right? Does it work? And it's called the MVP, the minimum viable product. I create that and I drop that. I let people see it. I let people, give their, suggestions. Traditionally, I would have a Discord where I would be in communication with people who fix bugs, see what's going on, look at retention rates, things like that, and slowly approach what I would consider perfect. And once it reaches a certain level of satisfactory and the numbers justify it, then I'll go ahead and release at that point. Then I'll put a lot of energy and effort into marketing. And I'm not going to say that I do this every time, because I don't, but this is the strategy that I've been approaching while been developing apps. Believing that the app will be perfect on day one has been something that has never happened for me. There's always been some major, crazy, huge oversight that's just I didn't see, or was impossible for me to see, because in programming, it's just, think of it as a big logical essay, right? It's with thousands of pages, right? That's what a program is, a logical essay. And they all have to, and the logic has to work perfectly. If someone does something that you didn't logically think of, guess what? They just crashed. Or guess what? Behavior that you weren't expecting, it just happened, and now something weird is going on, and maybe an exploit or maybe something like that, right? So that's typically how I approach it. And right now we're kind of, because from his perspective, he's like, yo, we're right at the finish line and you want to change it up. You just want to drop it before we release some of these major features. And I'm like, bro, I've been working on this thing for a very long time. I'm a programmer, of course. I've been working on this thing. We've been working on this thing for a very long time, and we haven't received much user data. We need data. We need to see what the people actually think of it. We need to see how people actually use it. And it's just so that's pretty interesting. But and the spirit of partnerships, I made my case known. I told him kind of my perspective, but he is technically the marketer. He is the guy who is in charge of that. And I had a previous video of letting people do their job. People want to feel useful. People want to and deserve to feel useful, and people deserve to do their job, right? And me trying to slightly encroach into his area um, probably isn't the wisest, best situation. It can lead to resentment and things like that. So I'm probably going to relax on that end. But I did make my position known just so, he can sleep on that and everything. So that's kind of the first thing. I'm super excited, bro. The app we're making is something that does not exist. It does not exist. And it exists in form, but like it's undeveloped. And I think it's kind of a shoot off from Neon Controller and GP Overlay, but it's more refined. It's pretty cool. So that'll be coming in maybe about 2 months, a month and a half. So that's the first thing. The second thing is identity. So I don't know if I even made a video about this, but last year, almost exactly last year, I kind of had this epiphany, and I was like, man, I'm not who I thought I was. I no longer really want to be, or I don't want that to be all of who I define myself as. And because up to that point, I had considered myself the programmer, I consider myself the engineer, I consider myself the business owner, I consider myself those things only. And I had lots of awards from school and different accomplishments that I had, ribbons from science fairs and, little plaques and trophies and stuff. And it just hit me one day, and I was like, these things aren't, I hold so much value to these trinkets, these awards, and they're supposed to mean something to me, but I started to resent what they represented. They represented that I was a particular kind of person, and they would, in a way, they kind of like discouraged me from exploring other ways that I could be, if that makes sense, right? Just clear cut, if that didn't make sense. Science fair, right? I participated in the International Science and Engineering Fair, and I did pretty well in it. Having that plaque and having all those trophies and letters and all that stuff, and then working a menial job that I do work, right? It would create friction. It creates a friction in identity. It would make it so that I look at that and I'm like, I did this. Why would I ever do this? It messes it up. And I did something that maybe some people would consider a little crazy, but all the rewards, all the like trophies and the ribbons and some of the letters and stuff, I like destroyed it. Not in like a rage, not in like a sadness, not in like a weird gleeful kind of psychosis way, but just like a calm destroy. I destroyed all of it. And it was so interesting when I was destroying it, because those symbols of accomplishment were so flimsy. It was, you look at the trophies and stuff that they give, you look at the awards and stuff that they give, it's paper and plastic. It breaks apart like tissue, right? And after I did that, I felt like a lightness. I know what I did. I know what I accomplished. I know what I'm capable of. And this little tiny piece of paper or this little itty bitty ribbon does not define what I'm able to do, and doesn't even serve as proof. It doesn't, right? What the proof is the fact that I did it, and the fact that I'm able to do it, and I could do it again in the future. That's the proof. So, and I think that's just an important thing. Holding on to past identities can really keep you from growing in a different direction, right? A direction that you would be happier in. Because that's really what it was. I had spent maybe a year or 2 years just programming nonstop, doing the things I thought I would love doing, right? Programming, build a business. I had funding, doing that every day. And I realized I didn't love it. I could not do that for the rest of my life. Um, and I had to dismantle that definition of myself and create a more complicated, a more intricate definition. And that's the definition I have now. One that goes to the gym. That's not a skinny, kind of, I don't want to say skinny nerd, but in a way, not skinny, doesn't exercise, doesn't go out and meet people, doesn't go into the sun, doesn't do anything physical, just programs. Everything is logical. Everything is systematic. That's not the person I wanted to be. And I think I successfully made that kind of jump in identity. And where I'm at now, I love the life that I have right now. It's not where I want it to be fully, but that's just a time thing. I love that I go to work. I do something physical every single day. I help the planet. I help the people around me. I all this stuff. And then when I come home, I can sit on my computer and program a device that could potentially go to millions of people. And I can have partners. And then after that, I go to the gym. I, go hang out in the city, do whatever. That identity, I like that identity more than the solitary nerd who programs all day in his room and builds something cool. It's just a better definition of myself. So it's just reminding me because it's been a year since I did that and my life has completely changed. Everything has changed. So that's pretty cool. Third thing I want to talk about is work and just the importance of understanding position, like where you are and what kind of moves you're able to do. I think social media has tricked a lot of people into thinking that they have closer proximity to certain things that they really don't have proximity to, right? You see on social media, people are able to do certain things work for other people, but you don't know the time that they put into it. You don't know how much effort, what they actually sacrificed. You don't know, what inherent advantages they already have. And because you don't know all these things and you try to do what they do, it may backfire in a tremendous way. And I saw this firsthand at my job. Just one of my coworkers, someone who came in after me, was, always kind of had a problem with how my manager ran things. And, slowly but surely, he starts to emulate those behaviors. And the manager is like, hey, don't do that. But he just misunderstood his position. He misunderstood where he was at and the power difference. And now he's facing trouble. I don't want to go into too much detail about it, but it's just something very interesting that I never actually saw firsthand. You could kind of think about it, be like, yeah, obviously you can't do that. But when you see it firsthand, you really see like, wow, there is, like, everything won't work for everybody simply because of, like, the principles of hierarchy and power differences and stuff. You can't just do anything you want. You gotta wait your turn. That's the third thing. And the fourth thing I want to talk about is self-control. I went over to my parents' house, and my mom has this like Sunday school thing that she does. And today's topic was on fruit of the Spirit. And if you don't know what that is, basically in the Bible, they talk about or mention some of the character traits that are proof that you are living in alignment with like the Holy Spirit or God, right? I'm not Christian, but I just want to say this real quick. I'm not Christian, but I do think that getting wisdom from different religions and different spiritual practices can make you a more effective person. So I'm open to hear pretty much any kind of philosophy or way of thinking. And I agree with this one, the fruit of the Spirit. And what they were saying is that the fruit of the Spirit like there's 9 of them. I don't know if I can remember all of them, but it's like peace, joy, goodness, patience, self-control, and I think 2 or 3 more, right? And it was saying that, and she was saying that these things, these traits aren't things that you consciously do. Like, you're not constantly like, I must be patient, or I must be good, I must be good. They are the fruit of a certain kind of alignment in that practice, right? So that's why it's called fruit of the Spirit. When you water the tree, when you give it sunlight, the fruit will come. You don't, try to, you don't like that, you don't force the fruit to come out the tree. You tend to the tree and the fruit come out, right? So that should be your focus. It's like alignment with God and all this stuff. And when she was going over it, I realized that in my life I have 8 of them, right? I think I'm like, now I feel like I'm in a very good position. But one of the things that I have historically always had trouble with was self-control. Always had problems with self-control. And I was talking to my mom, and she was like, well, Joshua, you do seem very self-controlled. You don't get in trouble very much. You don't go off and do something crazy. Oftentimes, you didn't get in trouble in school. You don't get in trouble with the law. There's some people who get in trouble with the law, right? You don't do any of that. And I was like, yeah, but in school, the things I was supposed to do, I always kind of wanted to do, right? Most of the time, I did want to sit down and listen to the teacher. Most of the time, I like taking tests. I do like learning things. I'm not someone who's particularly rebellious. Like, so when I'm acting good, it's almost never been out of self-control. It's been out of just, yeah, you convinced me. You convinced me to do the right thing. Okay, it's not really so. I'm not fighting anything, so no, there's no friction. But in my life, when there are things that I probably really shouldn't do, that I haven't really been convinced that I should do, and more so on the impulsive side, like impulsive buying, kind of even like impulsive eating, right? So I'll just buy like a bunch of like oatmeal cookies, a huge pack of them, and I'll just eat on like 3 or 4 of them, or like dessert. It's just like stuff like that, without going into too much detail. I've always had trouble with, and I kind of set it to be my mission about 2 weeks ago to get that part of me in check, the self-control part. Now, I don't really have any strategy, because the Christian way of doing it is by becoming, like repenting and getting in alignment with Jesus, and, reading the Bible and all that stuff. So I'm not exactly sure how, but I'm kind of doing the thing that she said you can't really do, where you put a conscious effort into it. Where you say, in the morning, I say, I am in self-control. I am in control. I have self-control. And whenever I do something that seems to be approaching impulse, I just say that, hey, I'm practicing self-control right now. And hopefully, if I do that for long enough, it will become a habit. I guess I don't 100% agree that you're not supposed to consciously do these things, because sometimes behaviors are just habits. You're not a particular way because you haven't practiced being a certain kind of way. So that's where I'm at with the self-control thing. Yeah, that's where I'm at. And yeah, so I just wanted to talk about that. Is there anything else? Well, I guess at my job, I'm approaching a year at my job. And once my year is over, I have a lot of options of different places I could go, promotions. I can go laterally, I can go up and down. Um, so that's pretty exciting in terms of the job stuff. But yeah, that's really it. So thank you all so much for watching. This is Tax Generation, and I'll see you guys next time.